Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today is a December 15th edition of the MSP Initiative Live. And 15 more days. And the year, I guess 16 because it's 31 days. And the year's over. 2022 is over. You're going to have the ball drop. You're going to go nowhere on New Year's Eve. And then all of a sudden the calendar year is going to change and you're going to forget to put 2023 down because you'll still be doing 2022.
Gonna get a gym membership, work out for 30 of those days, and then be done after January,
Exactly right. And then never cancel the gym membership, right? Just let it go on and on and on. Yeah, so here we are in December, and the holidays are pretty much around the corner. I feel like, Black Friday, you didn't see the traffic that you normally see. Everybody just bought everything online. Thanksgiving, the forgotten holiday, right? Like everybody forgets that that's a holiday. And then all of a sudden, Christmas, and New Year's. I don't know, maybe I'm just not paying attention because I've been bouncing around like a ping pong ball, but just doesn't feel like Christmas. I don't know why.
Could be a thousand things. Could be the economy or the impending worsening economy. Could be anything, right? There's a lot going on, right?
I don't know. Just doesn't feel like Christmas, but that's okay. We'll although I have been watching the on Disney Plus, the clauses, right? It's a continuation of the Tim Allen Santa Claus thing, but I digress.
Do you like it? Are you watching it for the kids or are you watching it for yourself?
No, I'm watching it for myself. I know it's cheap.
No, that's all right. I just haven't seen it, so
Yeah.
I didn't get a George recommendation online on it, so I didn't know you were.
Well, I haven't finished it yet, so we'll see. So anyway, MSPinitiative.com. This and every other session we've ever done since the dawn of MSP Initiative in March 2020 is there, being podcast and video format. Officially, no more events on the schedule for the next 2 weeks, but then January comes and we'll have a whole year's worth of stuff to tell you about. Maybe was down at the Marketopia GrowCon for the last few days in lovely Clearwater, Florida. Although today apparently it's tornado watch and a lot of rain, but for the last few days it's been pretty sunny and pretty good weather. So totally understand why people love that place. And Florida in general, I would guess. All of that being said, nice to see kind of people on the tail end of the year. I know that was the last one for a lot of people who live on the road, and as usual, the things that normally happen, including a little bit of pizza at late hours of the night. So anyway, it's been a while, but we welcome back the one, the only Mr. Kenny P. Ken Patterson.
What up?
We, of course, the seat is always here for you, sir. And because we have Mr. Keith Nelson on the line, and I believe, Keith, I had reports about you thinking that, this Dallas Eagles game is going to go some way. I believe the line opened at -1 for the Eagles. You're not even getting the 3-point home field advantage. So, and then you had your boy Micah Parsons go on somebody's podcast and start talking some nonsense about Jalen Hurts. Well, maybe it's the system, not the actual guy. And I was like,
hey, gentlemen, be good. I'll be right back. But
okay.
Be nice. Be nice.
I was like, oh no, that's just bulletin board material. What do you got to say for that?
Well, Christmas Eve's an American holiday, so we start.
Sure, it is. Well, yes. I mean, it's a worldwide holiday. Let's be honest.
Yeah, but I mean, which one we honor America? So, I think it's going to be a good test game for us.
Okay.
I think that I think this idea that the Eagles haven't been challenged is really wrong, right? You play who's in front of you. You've once this year have exhibited some weakness, twice really, one loss and one close game. Otherwise, pretty consistent, playing pretty deep. It's always been Jalen Hurts is going to blow it, and it hasn't happened yet. I think 2 years ago or a year ago, you would have expected that. He was a little immature, a little risky. He's grown up a lot. I'm concerned about, which offensive coordinator we have, we're not going to just run up Philadelphia's ass, but we have to stick with the run. And our offensive coordinator tries to throw the game too early on Dak's back. We could have problems there. I think that's Parsons' personality. So that was your question. I think that's who he is.
Okay.
I don't, bulletin board material.
That's bulletin
Trying to go
board
both
material,
ways.
my friend. That's what I think.
He has backed up most of his chatter. He's an
Fair.
up and coming young star.
Fair.
I think that's how he gets himself ready as well.
Well, I'm excited to see how it all comes together because it's not that far from now.
No.
And I'm curious to see. Yeah, all things considered, it'll be good television with good ratings.
Yeah, I
That
think
being said, let's just flip for a second into technology land. So I know Matthew Fox, you couldn't help but send me some stuff about Rackspace and their.
Hold on a second. Why is there's Ken? I thought he was invisible for a second. Okay.
Nah,
good.
yeah, he's back. He's
Wow.
back.
All
You
right.
can't be
So-
this large and be invisible. Sorry.
So Matthew Fox, was all,
Yeah, go get a drink.
all up on the Rackspace situation from a week ago, and then today, I'm seeing people buzzing about Intermedia hosted exchange being down too.
Yeah, that was about 20 minutes ago or so.
So could be that the bad guys just took their bazooka and went like this.
You don't need a bazooka with hosted exchange, but I get what you're saying.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, he's right.
Yeah.
Isn't there a saying about low hanging fruit?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's more
Yeah.
like a zip gun, but it's still effective.
Come on, hosted exchange is 2007 for me.
I mean,
realistically, I think that was the first time I dealt with Rackspace and stuff, and ASP1 was another company back then for that. And then as soon as you can get away from that, you did. Period.
Well, we did have somebody on one of the community calls bring up the fact that there are still certain situations where hosted exchange is required for security, believe it or not. So there was that. It did come up, but of course it's very slim compared to the ones that are probably using it just because of the price.
Mm-hmm. There's always going to be an exception to a rule. I
Right.
just feel like there are too many exceptions in a situation like this. And that's what leads to these problems. And I was a very long-term customer of Rackspace years ago and tried to move away from them. They kept buying a lot of the companies I was moving to. So whenever I hear that name, I get a little antsy. You got a little bit of that from me last week.
Yeah, I get it.
I mean, bottom line is, Microsoft's not perfect either. The 365 or M365 or Office 365, whatever brand they want to call it today, version of this, right? You would hope that they've tightened the screws up a little bit on the bigger platform, but it's still the core product underneath the hood now.
That's a hard question to answer.
There's a lot of people on O365 for email, man. Let's be honest.
Yeah. And a lot of people not backing that up, and a lot of people.
The 30 days isn't good enough for you, Keith.
You got to back that shit up. Jeez, man, you got a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. And even when Microsoft has, I know they've changed up a little bit, was like Article 5B that literally states you have to back this stuff up because we're not. And still people don't get it.
If they actually came out with the percentage of people that are doing it, I bet you it's single digits.
It's low.
Mm-hmm. I bet
Live by the blue light, die by the blue light.
Well, hold on. Hold on. One could argue that they shouldn't just let you turn on a new account without that being in place.
Why?
Up until recently, if you signed up a new Office 365 user, they didn't even do the MFA turn on. You had to go in after the fact and turn it on. They just let you do a username and password. If MFA is so important, why isn't that just part of the setup process by default? Why do you have to go and do extra steps?
Yeah, you can't sell it that way.
I buy a car and they don't make sure I put gas in it, and they don't make sure I buckle my seatbelt and turn the lights on.
Or change your oil. Your oil.
Yeah, they make sure I have some semblance of intelligence, or in my case, since I don't, I sign up for the factory service, right? I mean, it's like,
Keith, you buy a car, it has locks on it. It's not like they're optional. You don't
And
go
you
to Home Depot
Whoa,
and
whoa,
put up a
whoa,
lock.
but George, your analogy is wrong because it has locks on it, which can be easily picked, which is why you have to buy a real alarm system to actually safeguard it. So the
oh, by the
MFA
way,
is the alarm system.
Office 365 does have 2FA. You have to push the button, just like you do when you walk away from your car, right? So just the fact that my little red car has locks on it, if I don't push the button, if I don't remember to put the top up and pick up my key from the center divider, all that alarm, everything that's on there is totally useless because I'm stupid.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing here is that Office 365 needs the equivalent to the club.
Dude, that was so popular back in the day. And then like so one person in the early day of YouTube's like, let me show you how to defeat the club in about 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
It's like the Z lock. Remember the Z locks?
Yeah, yeah.
And it was all it was a key and that was underneath the dashboard. And I actually had a friend who could showed us everybody how to access those things. And we walked into a Grand National. Remember the Buick Grand National? We walked into a dealership and the guy said, if you can break it, you can own it. And again, the kid's like, oh yeah, he rips the Z lock down, hits it with a hammer, the lock popped out. And he's like, do I drive it out now, right through the window? Or are you going to open up the doors? And they're like,
yeah. Gone
you're
in
not old enough.
62nd edition.
Yeah. And they kind of just backed up. And then he was 18 or 17 at the time. So they just, they used that. Well, you're too young, went down this whole line. But I witnessed the kid break a Z lock in basically under a minute.
Wow. It's
Those were the
yeah.
days.
I mean, like I was reading maybe like a month or two ago that if you had, it was like certain types of Hondas, certain types of Hyundais, I forget one other model car, dude just rolled up with a gizmo he bought on Amazon for $50 and like was able to like guess the frequency of the transponder and turn the freaking car on.
Well, I saw someone do that with the Tesla gas lock, so I'm assuming it can be done with anything. But we were at an event. The guy goes, "I can pop the Tesla, any one of your gas caps." And the guy's like, "These are gas caps. Obviously, don't say gas, but the electric charging cap station." And basically, we walked out to the guy's car. He's like, "There's no way he's gonna do this." He goes, "Beep boop, beep boop," and the thing goes pop and just popped open. And when you have that kind of control that easily with frequency, I don't see the other pieces that George was explaining being too hard.
Yeah, it's like earlier in the week I received a package that I don't remember ordering. So but it was an RFID cloner. Okay.
Oh, there you go.
A little bit of soldering work this weekend, play with it, and I'll go to the office next week and get like, hey guys, check this out. And that's a lot of trouble that can be made for $8 and a little bit of
I mean, that's the thing, right? This stuff's like readily available. It's not like you have to, it's not like the 80s where you were like having to steal some, get into some top secret lab, like, Knight Rider edition and like put these.
Oh, come on. In the 80s, in the 80s, you would try and build a freaking box, electrocute yourself, and then move back to playing Mr. Do. It was a different thing.
I'll take your word for it, my friend. But
I had access to capacitors. I didn't need that box. I could fry myself with.
I saw another guy. It was a clip where he took 2 plungers and pulled the window down on like every car on the street, and I'm like, wow, that was easy.
Yeah.
I was like, you don't need the AAA lock. Get into your car service, right? You just go to Walmart, get 2 plungers, and window
Get a
comes
workout at the same time. That sounds ideal.
And if you get home and the toilet's clogged, you got something for that too.
Exactly. So I don't know. It seems like, it's almost like the perception of security, right? But like in reality, it's just all window dressing.
Well, you need it. I wouldn't call it window dressing. I mean, in these cases, if you have those extra layers, that's what's protecting you or at least helping you. And the final result, as Keith mentioned, is backup. If you don't have a active backup and a backup to your backup, and and you're not testing those things to make sure they're running on a regular basis, these are the types of things that happen.
But I get a screenshot, man. It looks like it turned on.
Screenshot. I mean, we used to do sandbox tests, and this was 5-6 years ago. We were doing sandbox tests on every environment that we had, because we knew how critical it would be. Well, and not that we didn't experience it, right? So through pain, we decided to not let that happen anymore. And we were doing full on sandbox tests every month to make sure that we could bring a system back up if we needed to. And it was a lot harder back then. There's a lot more technology now to get these systems back up. It's just, why are they not putting them in place? Cost alone.
Yeah, years ago, we had a hospitality that before they had hosted on-site exchange that was down.
Right.
And sales is going, I have to do my email. I'm going to lose my biggest sale. And the answer is, you're going to risk your biggest sale on email, not the phone. And so that's why those sandboxes help, because you're going like, hey, learn how to do your job multiple ways. And it's not all technology.
Right.
And you walk them to, it was the same thing with like checking clients. And we used to teach the people every quarter. You know what? You cannot say at the front desk to a guy who's been flight delayed. You guys know this. You're 8 hours late to your hotel. And then they go, I can't check you in because the computer's down. You're going, no, figure it out, right? Manually check the guy in. And so that's why those sandboxes, I think, are imperative.
Well, again, like you got to zoom out of the sandbox. I call it the MSP sandbox. Got to zoom out of our own little industry, right? If half the sales for Office 365 are end users going to office365.com, putting their credit card number in and pressing go, I mean, Microsoft's not exactly messaging on the front end in their marketing these things, right? They just think, hey, I paid for a service, I press go, nobody scrolls and reads the 800 pages of terms and conditions, and like, boom, you're in, right? So I think that's part of the problem, no?
Yeah, I mean, that's like you said, those are end users, right?
But
We're talking about
that's
yeah.
I would love to go and find the actual number, but it wouldn't shock me if half of their Office 365 revenue is not through partners and it's just Microsoft transacting retail through their webpage alone.
I wouldn't say half. I know that we were talking about this was only a couple of years ago when the shocking number, and actually, being at PAX 8, it was an interesting number because it was only 8%. So everybody was like, oh, you're just saying 8% because it's PAX 8. It was like, no, truly only 8% of businesses were using M365 and moving to M365 at the time. And that was only a couple of short years ago. But we've also seen with COVID, especially, the explosion of those numbers jumping. So I mean, I don't know where the percentage is now, but I would imagine it's gotten fairly.
Yeah, I would guess, I don't have any background knowledge, that most of the self-service guys that probably clean their own office and wash their own car probably use Google Mail because they're all based on price.
I mean, Keith, what if you're just, like the dying, internal IT admin, right? Like, cause like that role, like is, going the role, like the dodo, right? But, they just go, hey, we need this. They go to 365.com. They put in, hey, I need 100 of these licenses, press go, and they're online in 2 minutes, right? I mean, obviously there's other kind of things that need to be done, but like they're in their account and they can start working on it.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing stopping them. It's meant to be an Amazon style experience to the outside person on the street, right? Like they don't need to talk to anyone.
No, I agree. I mean, that's why, I mean, I don't think it's probably a lot of MSPs that do that with their clients.
Yep.
I'll
tell you what, Keith, there's a lot of MSPs.
Yeah.
There's a lot of MSPs, to Keith's point, that are doing that because they don't want to deal with it at all. And they're letting the end users buy it themselves with their credit card. They're pushing it through and saying, hey,
So
sure,
they don't
you're
have
upset.
to deal with
Now,
that.
right. But if they're a mature MSP, well, first, if you're mature, I don't think that's the proper way to do it. I still think you should manage it and get behind it. But if you're a mature MSP and you're doing that, you still have to know that they need backup and they need to plug a backup into those things. So you're right, George, it's probably still happening, but that's the key, is if there's somebody in between. And by the way, those MSPs or IT professionals or whatever, those people that are doing that have to understand they're still liable. Because they're IT support people. Even if they're saying, well, we're out of the Microsoft thing, we don't even sell it to them, you're still liable. So just remember that when you're doing these things. Yes, George, you're still supporting their network.
Hold on.
you're
hold on.
still going
hold
to be
on.
liable. Yes.
It all depends on how the relationship is set up. If I'm a consultant, I come in as like a Rambo, I do the 2 or 3 things that I'm contracted to do and I roll out. Like, how are they still liable? Like
Yeah,
they're not
I would
there
get,
for
I'd
an
be willing to bet,
extended
I'd
engagement.
be willing to bet that these companies are coming in saying that they're their IT guy. They do their IT work. I bet it's not everybody has stayed at a Holiday Inn like you and understands it, lawyerism the way you do, George. So that's a
Hold on.
different
What does
thing.
Holiday Inn have to do with lawyerism?
Oh, you remember that? Come on,
Here's
the commercial. I'm not a lawyer, but I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night. Come on.
I haven't seen
tie
that
it
one,
together.
but okay.
Anyways,
here.
so the thing is, not everybody has the same lawyer sense that you do, but a lot of these guys are out there doing this, and girls are doing this practice, and they go in and say, hey, I'm their IT person, I support their network. Oh, but I did this one piece because I wanted to be direct with Microsoft. They're not signing a contract that says that, but they are saying that they support their network. If you support their network and something happens to their network, I think that carries over to the people who are supporting your network.
I would argue, and there's a lot of people that have flipped back to maybe an early 2000s methodology, right? I'm a consultant, right? You're contracting me to do specific things. Maybe it's on a one-time basis. Maybe I'm just available if you need to raise your hand like Geek Squad and come to me when there's a fire. But like, you're going to sign up directly with these vendors. I'm not in the middle of that. I'm only making recommendations to you. You don't have to take my recommendations, but you're holding me harmless. There's no warranty. There's no, you're basically, I'm just ad hoc, right? And if you work in that way, I'm not sure, like what happens if you come in after the fact, Ken? They already went to 365.com, put in their credit card, ordered their licenses, and they're just like, yeah, we're a little bit lost. We need help to make sure that, this, and this work. No problem. Here's my hourly rate. Come in, do it, and leave. I mean, that's not, I'm not sure how much liability you can put on that guy.
Yeah, I don't know. I think for me, if I was doing this today, I wouldn't step into any environment like that without an upfront agreement, upfront contract saying, these are the things that we have to look for. These are the things that have to happen. This is what's going to be next. And we had learned that even back in the day, I used to have people sign off if they didn't want a backup, just a regular old backup, by the way, on-site data where it did the imaging, that stuff local. If they didn't want that backup, I made them sign off on an agreement that stated, I told them that they need this backup, but they decided not to go with the backup. And 90% of the time they would sign because I was putting the liability on them. So I thought. I've learned, and I think it was Brad Gross that told us this is true as well, that type of agreement doesn't hold up.
Right. It's called the laws of unscrupulous advantage. Him and I have talked about it, and he did agree with me with it. That and then besides the liability, I think there's something else you work with, or in my opinion, you work with your fiduciary or your moral fiber. And I know you deal with your reputation, and as soon as they sue you, you've lost. That's
right.
my
Yeah, you're right.
So,
Keith, just to give you a little bit of help with this one, back in the day, I joined the company that became the MSP that I owned and I sold off. But right before I joined them, they had a frivolous lawsuit against them. I joined them. They fought it. They won, but they lost $100,000 in cash, lawyer fees, and I want to say hundreds of hours of time in court. That's what you call a win. So yeah, I'm backing you up 100% because I've seen it firsthand where the guy just sued everybody involved.
But anybody can sue anybody for anything or
right.
nothing at all.
Right.
I mean,
I'm just saying, to Keith's point, he's right. Even when you win a lawsuit, you don't win. When they sue you, you've already lost.
Well,
So trying to stop that from happening as best possible, right?
sure. Well, that's
especially when the things
why 80, almost 90% of all litigation doesn't make it to a courtroom.
Right.
It gets handled, out of court, it gets settled, it gets remediated, whatever. And like, you never end up going to an actual trial, right?
Yeah. In our case, there was no settlement because there wasn't anything there. And then we ended up winning the case about a year and a half later or 2 years later, however long it took. And and they paid out of pocket $80,000 to $100,000 plus all the time they spent. And I remember being in the office, running the office while these two were in court multiple times, and it's painful. So trying to, avoid that at all costs, right? Trying to make sure you're making the best decisions, you're bringing the best people on.
Unfortunately, we've heard how many times now across all the people that we've talked to that if the insurance company is involved, they'll go back and sue everybody to see if they can collect back too, right? Like,
I can tell you this, on 12/2, we were proud that Inland Regional Center was not named in any suits because we handled people well. The insurance company spent over $500,000 getting named out of suits they weren't named in. And I forgot there was a legal name for it. Next time Bradley Gross can tell you, because in every lawsuit they put the does to add later, and you're going, we weren't even directly sued, and it still cost insurance companies over about $500,000 to make sure we weren't added to suits we weren't named in. So you're going, the only one that wins in the courts are the little brat kids of the lawyers who are getting nice cars and college educations on our dime.
well, at the end of the day, I mean, I guess the big point here, because we started off on, hey, it could be another ransom attack here on the exchange stuff, is that, like, it's it's going to get more and more complicated over time because there's a lot of this, right, and this and this, and yeah, I mean, it just, the cost, it almost doesn't pay if you're charging the lowest amount in your region, in your market, to only get sucked in later on into stuff like that. And, this goes back to some of the basic building block stuff, right? And, I've heard been talking to Brad for a long time on, hey, customers come and go, right? So on and so forth. But, you, at some point, you need to make sure that you're held harmless and your liability is limited when, you hand over the keys and it's no longer your bag, right? That especially the most crucial time when that happens, right, is when, like, the customer's actually in offboarding mode and they're in the middle of going somewhere else. Like, that's the time when, like, talk about low hanging fruit. That's when things are really vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
Just so you know, the intermediate thing on Down Detector says multiple reports of the systems down, most reported problems, 74% server connection, 22% login, and 5% hosting.
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah,
just
that's your
Down Detector,
like,
just trying to just do generic categorization, right? But it, I
By
guess
the way,
it does say it's back up as of 10 minutes ago.
oh,
to me, the greatest, the interesting news that happened was InfoGuard got hacked.
okay.
That's administered by the FBI, supposedly of closely vetted individuals who only have material interest in that content. They reject most MSPs that apply. And someone goes to the FBI and becomes a fake user and starts hacking their system and selling all the memberships online. So when you talk to your clients about, I think too much of the focus is on hack prevention, which is fine. I mean, and you need to talk more about, I'm going to make sure your business runs when this occurs, which goes to Ken's point about, tabletops and practice and intimately knowing their, business processes and how they're going to survive reputation wise and financially while you recover.
Oh, got to have the carbon copy paper in the closet.
We have, I could tell you this, at the Port of LA and Long Beach, we have the old tickets and in the carbon that haven't been used since 1999. And they're still there, that in case the system goes down, which it hasn't had a failure since then, that the dispatchers are trained to how to manually send people out to the ports.
Wow. It would definitely be slower.
Just a little.
Just a little, but
Oh, you'd have a way, right? You'd have a path.
Yeah.
And to your point, it's what Matt Lee speaks about too, right? Defensibility. You have to build up defensibility through all of this. You have to make sure that, you're not talking about completely securing them, but you're building up that defensibility. There's a process, right? And remember, I don't even know if this is still a thing, Keith. Maybe you do know. Remember when this first, like when TJ Maxx got hit and they states started coming down and saying that you needed to have this security paperwork in place and you had to have somebody that captained the security paperwork. And basically all it was a path that basically stated that you may not have been able to go from A to Z all at one time because it was too expensive, but you're showing proof of best practices that you're moving towards being as close, as high, as secure as you possibly could be with the resources, and you are following that path. Is that something that's still going on? Is that part of the, what CIS is becoming in CMMC, or because this was more about, I can't remember the damn name of the paperwork, but we actually started selling these documents. That they were lawyers wrote them up and charged a big fee. So we found a way to get lawyers to write them up for us and do them much cheaper and pass them on to them so that they were putting it in place. But Massachusetts was huge with it because TJ Maxx was here. And then we also had another one in Massachusetts that got breached. So the companies had to start filling out these forms. And for the life of me, I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, I remember. I think that happens whenever you do regulation.
Yeah.
We talk about this in a committee where do politicians do regulation to solve problems or to feel good about themselves?
Yeah.
And most of it is they're answering a problem they probably created and really don't understand.
Right.
And you're going like they say, well, why I developed some legislation around that. And it's the same thing, you look at everything that's implemented, PCI, how many years was that over? Deadline, HIPAA, and even CMMC in the military, and we've talked about this, that they can't shut down production while they're trying to get people to come up to compliance.
Right.
So you keep filing like, we're working on this is next quarter. Here's what we're implementing next. We can't even fix this. And it is what it is. I mean, and that's where the guys that are professional, like the Matt Lee, that walk in and say, we're developing a posture. The
Right.
checklist is not the answer. We're developing a security posture, a culture, and we're a little bit smarter than a checklist. So we're figuring out what doesn't fit and how we can work around that.
But speaking about,
I say we, but I'm not that
pushed
smart.
back. Hold on.
Yeah.
The deadline that's been pushed back. Real ID was pushed back to 2025.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
do you have your real ID?
When you get global entry, they give you a real ID. So I've
Yeah.
had the
Okay.
global entry card forever.
Yeah.
And like every time you renew that, they give you a new one. But it was like, when you go to get your driver's license here, it was funny because I said this at the table the other day in Florida, and like they're like, oh, mine expires every 8 years. Well, in Pennsylvania, your ID expires every 4 years. So you go to renew and it's like, oh, if you want the real ID, it's like 3x more in cost, or you just renew and you pay like, $25, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I already have the passport. I already got the global entry card. I'm good. I don't need to like duplicate all of these real ID costs, right? But now they're like, yeah, it was supposed to be in, 2020? Then they delayed it to this year. Now it's 2025.
Interesting. I got it because my license renewed, and the only thing that sucked about it was the documentation required. That was the only thing that got screwed up because they required some extra documentation. But the process was easy for me because I have AAA, so I didn't even have to go to the registry. I went to a AAA office, walked in. They were super nice. I'm like, oh, I don't have a document. Ran across the street, got a document, came back over to the AAA It was as easy as it possibly could be, separate, because I didn't have to deal.
So AAA has to deal with the DMV and
yes, yep. They can do licenses and they can do real IDs depending only on certain spots. The one that happens to be right down the street from me did it. I went through the process. And I was like, this is way better than dealing with the DMV, of course. And went into AAA, got my real ID, and it was simple and fast.
Yeah.
And of course, a world traveler like George has, the real ID, the pass, the clear.
Oh no, George needs it to travel down the street because they're gonna bust him no matter what he has.
By the way, I have it all, and it doesn't change anything for the record.
The lounge, the traveling
No,
first class.
no. I'm not a lounge guy. I'm low key when it comes to that. I know
Oh,
other people
really? Because I saw your employee. We met.
Yeah, that's Alec.
Yeah, he was sitting in the lounge with his wife.
He's Mr.
He's the
Lounge.
lounge guy. He's the bougie one.
And I said, wow, boy, George is first class. You guys have lounge passes and limos to the airport and
You know,
first class seating.
You know what? For my people, for me, I sit next to the bathroom. I wait for my turn. I walk on last on the plane. Yeah, I don't need any of that.
Yeah, well, you just use your American Express. I mean, with that.
No. See, there's a long time ago where me and American Express did not get along. So American Express is on the infamous George blacklist.
We can get it with Sapphire. There's like 5 credit cards that give you all those passes now.
If it's American Express, it's not for me. That's it.
No, the other one.
I
Chase
vote with my dollars.
Yeah. I love it. I mean, they get the concert passes, all the stuff they can give you.
Well, Keith, we don't go to other concerts. We do the concerts on our own. Yeah, I mean, a little bit more work, but sure, fun time.
No, it was an awesome time. And you know what? Until they played, I kept going like, who are these guys? And then they started playing it, and I go, okay, I know who they are.
Yeah. Like, that's the point, right? That's kind of the part of the challenge when you're doing stuff like that. It's like you need an act big enough that they were on the radio, their stuff was high enough in the charts that everybody's heard it 1,000 times, so that like, even if you don't know them by name, you've heard that song before. So it's tough. It's a tough criteria to follow. And by the way, it's also very expensive.
Yeah.
Oh, I could imagine.
Yeah, I mean, any industry that has agents, just know that it's probably going to be expensive.
I could tell you this, and when I was doing public speaking for Under Armour and Finish Line, and they wanted us to open for Deion Sanders, and I said, "What do you pay Deion?" And they told me, and I said, "What does he get?" And I said, "Okay, here's my deal. I'm bringing 2 of my athletes who are sitting on stage with me, and they're going to do the presentation." I go, "They get the same travel package Deion did."
Oh yeah.
No, it was important to me because most of these guys are economically challenged, and they're really the headliner. They're talking to the kids at Team USA that went to South Korea, and then I made them donate the same amount to Autism Speaks, a local charity. He got $50,000 for a half hour.
Sounds about right. Think about every keynote speaker you've ever seen at any conference.
Oh yeah.
They're getting paid for, listen, yeah, they got to travel there. Yeah, there's maybe a little bit of like green room, like prep, whatever. But like effectively they're on for an hour, right? Every keynote's really never gone over that. If you actually go back and look, maybe with the Q&A could bubble over, but it's about an hour, right? So like, think about what these guys get charged. Like, and there's a scale, right? And just like booking a professional artist, conference speakers are a second industry, right? And by the way, I love that, like, their virtual appearance fee and their in-person appearance fee doesn't differ by that much.
Yeah. Found that out during COVID, I guess, but
yeah. You're like, huh? It's like, you don't have to go anywhere. Same price. Okay. Yeah.
Well, it's the Rock is close to $1 million for the hour speaking. Right. He's the highest paid. He's the number highest paid speech.
Wow.
Yeah. He's the
By the way, we spoke for 2 hours, so they didn't give us the break.
2 hours, no break, no potty break. But yeah, no, it's a circuit, man. Like, especially when you see, like, how many times have you seen somebody from one of the people on Shark Tank, or Peyton Manning, or I'm just going through my head, right? There was Bill Clinton the one year. There was
Magic Johnson did the virtual one for
yeah. I mean, like, you go back and you think about this, right? Like
Gary V's probably not cheap.
Yeah, Gary V was up there, but then who was probably the most expensive because he only performed for 10 minutes? Snoop Dogg, yeah.
Yeah, he performed one song?
One song.
And they locked all the doors. Complete fire hazard. Here's
because
me. What?
because they base it on how many people are in the audience. That's how the math's calculated.
Wow.
Yeah. So like when you go to start the conversation, the first thing is how many people will be in attendance, and then they work backwards.
And then Snoop goes to the hotel, tries to turn off all the smoke detectors and takes over a whole entire floor.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember that part of the story, but I'll take your word for it.
Oh yeah. Claimed it was the shower steam that was making the fire alarms go off.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And how much do they pay George to go on stage?
Yeah. Apparently I have to pay to go on stage. That's what they pay, right? Yeah. I don't, it's like negative dollars on the chart. What can I say? But hey, that's why, I leave the stage to the people that want to be out there. I'm a walking billboard. I'm loud. I don't need to be on the stage. They can hear me.
That's true.
This
Yeah.
is true. Usually they
could-
see George and it's exit stage right.
I mean, if I needed to start another business, remember the guy from Happy Gilmore? They send him and he'd be like you're not gonna make this punt, and or this.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The
So
007, the 007 guy, the big tall guy. Yeah, yeah.
So I was like, I could be heckler as a service. I'd be in the back of the room just causing a problem. What do you think, Keith Nelson? That's not blue light, is it?
No, that's I think you can do that.
Yeah.
I think you can do that.
Heckler as a service. I could also do negotiation as a service. I think I've pulled off some interesting negotiating over time. And then what was the other one I was thinking about?
What's the guy that Pizza Man? I heard you buy pizzas a lot.
Pizza man.
Yeah.
Only the
Late
people
night
back then
food as a
remember that.
service.
Remember that? That was like the first delivery. If you're old enough to remember that, they were back in Chicago, New York. Pizza Man, he delivers.
Well, did he have the guarantee delivered in a specific time or your money back?
I think back when I first heard it was the only place that delivered at all. If you look it up, it's actually.
That's interesting. And it's funny, certain places I've learned over the years doing these late night offerings or getting food late night. Certain places were funny because it was so late that we were just talking about it earlier. You remember Zach Carson? Zach would order food from these places and say, look, just make it your last stop and I'll make it worth your while. And one of the guys who owned the pizza place showed up at 2:30 in the morning at the hotel. And when he did it, he goes, I'm sorry, you're not my last stop, because someone called and you actually sparked it. So he's like, I delivered here and I'm going to the hotel across the way. So this guy made his last two stops really count. And there was a lot of places that were doing that late at night. They'll bring you however many pizzas they have or food they have. And if you give them a decent enough tip, you got that personal touch, they'd get right out to you and do it. And there was a lot of happy people at 2:30 in the morning when food got delivered. And of course, I was the food delivery guy a couple of times because we happened to be heading back to the hotel and we found a Whataburger or one of those places that everybody loves. And
In-N-Out, not
now
Whataburger.
In-N-Out. Come on, stop. Anyways, maybe now. I'm just talking about this was years ago, but I had a Whataburger in my
Chick-fil-A is not
hand.
open at 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I know. Sunday, and then threw the thing out to people in front of the hotel, and people were forever grateful. Robin Miller still talks about it to this day that I tossed this burger out to her, and a bunch of people coming by the front of the hotel at 2:00 in the morning. They were like rats, and then took it in the back and started eating it.
Even Sade said In-N-Out is superior.
Oh, even Sade. So she's now your connoisseur of food. I knew that was coming.
Can we just throw Fatburger into the mix since you guys
There
are
you
talking
go.
West Coast?
Yeah,
I mean,
Fatburger.
we got
Fatburger is
I
wild.
don't know if I've
We've
ever
got
had
In-N-Out. We've got all
Fatburger.
these other things, right? Has anyone
Fatburger's
ever
not
heard the
enough.
Beastie Boys reference anything other than White Castle and Fatburger in their music? No, because that's all you need. Come on.
I mean, White Castle is like a staple, right? I mean, and by the
Yes.
way, it's not everywhere. You got to work hard. But In-N-Out's like a West Coast kind of central thing. And then Chick-fil-A didn't start coming into
See,
the North.
Fatburger's they only have how many locations? Is it?
I've never had a Fatburger.
Oh, they don't have many locations. That's why. But I went to one late at night, and it was definitely a heart attack waiting to happen. It was amazing. Of course, it's my kind of heart attack. Yeah,
had one
I
in New
agree.
York for a
That's
little
where all
while.
the celebrities go there.
I've been to Wahlburgers.
Yeah,
We're,
Wahlburgers not.
Fat Burger was, Magic Johnson was involved with it.
Yes.
And they're down off Inglewood. The food roll, we could still find the old Pioneer Chicken.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that's some good stuff.
Now there's like 50 burger chains.
Yeah, you can't
Like-
even. It's funny, like
Shake
and that's
Shack
why
and-
the inconsistency and that's the stuff that that's why I don't even say Whataburger because that was however many years ago. So I don't even know. Some places people will say, "Oh, that's awful." Other places will say that's great. It's starting to just get to that point where it's all even In-N-Out. In-N-Out I thought was great. I was at one of the first In-N-Out burgers back in Cali, Stevenson Ranch, way back in the day, and it was amazing at the time because they cut the potatoes right there in front of you and did all that stuff. It's not the same as it was back then. It's changed, obviously, and I don't think it's as good. And I think that that's because you can't replicate it.
Miles from whatever's that, Miles Walker. When we were in LA, someone got him In-N-Out and he goes, "These are the worst fries I've ever had."
Yeah, that's why you got to get the fries animal style, right? Got to add some
Yeah.
stuff to the
If you got to cover it up, dude, then what's the point?
But the burger and the shake's good. Okay, the fries is like okay, but the other
When
stuff,
they cut those things fresh, the fries were pretty phenomenal. They don't do that anymore.
yeah, like their fries are they're like straw, like little straw
Yeah.
fries. It's
Yeah,
just not-
shoestring.
Oh, there you go. Sade says you got to order the fries well done.
That's true. She's not wrong, actually. That's what else, Sade? There was something else. She said if you don't get the fries well done, and the toasted buns.
The
You don't get the buns
toasted
toasted.
buns
See,
make
I
all
remember.
the difference.
I remember. See, she's right. That's what she's 100% accurate because she told me this fact and we did it and it was amazing.
Wow, do they charge extra for the extra toasting? You know, like
No.
it's $1 extra, 50 cents.
No
No.
extra.
Free 99.
Three. Yeah. Oh, but plus tax.
Well, in California, that'd be an extra $10, but
Yeah.
Sure. But then Wawa, you know, like, you know, that's the thing over here. Everybody has their Wawa order.
it's a gas station.
Yeah, but it's a gas
Come on,
station that
man.
has a deli that sells a lot of stuff.
I think In-N-Out's known to be still one of the best at paying their employees. That was always one of their big deals.
Maybe.
Yeah, they had the great managers plan. Yeah. That's
I mean,
one-
Chick-fil-A, I've only seen one really bad Chick-fil-A, and George will agree with me. But I think that I've seen really good employees. The one that wouldn't let us park the truck, and then
Yeah, she was.
and then
a
the
bit
lady was
bossy,
the
let's be
lady was
honest.
rude, really rude.
Wow.
It came out. It was not like Chick. Yeah, she was like, "You got to move." We're like, "We're buying like $200 worth of food." She's like, "Well, move after that." And then she came. She sent an employee out that George completely unwound, and that employee went back in with her tail between her legs. And then she came out and basically told us we got to go. And then finally, she let us get our food because we spent $200. And then she wouldn't help us get out of the spot because she had cars coming around us. So the driver was like, "Oh, you don't want to help us? I'm just going to sit here and eat my fries." And he's going to stay in the middle of the road. So she said, "Fine." And she sent out people to help us. Other than that, Chick-fil-A, I've always had the best service. The people are always
But here's the
nice.
thing,
And their drive-throughs move faster than any drive-through I've ever
Oh,
seen.
they have it down to a science. They've definitely perfected it. But apparently, you can't. It's not Chick-fil-A is actually not franchised. You can't own a Chick-fil-A. You can just be a manager of a Chick-fil-A, right? Like so. You
Oh,
actually,
really?
yeah, I just like somebody actually explained the whole thing. Like you have no equity in it. There's like, you know, like you're just effectively the manager of that particular location. It's still corporately owned.
So just GMs.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know if you saw the new Chick-fil-A's, but where you would go to the window typically, now it's walk outdoors and they deliver.
Yeah,
right to
that,
your
that
car.
we
They
saw. I
walk
saw that
out.
in Florida next to the where they had IT Nation this past year, right? Like
Yeah,
it's like this, like a sliding door, like your back deck of your place, and they roll out with the, with the thing. But
Yeah, let them try that in Philly in December.
yeah, I don't know that like number one, I don't think there's a Chick-fil-A in Philly proper. I could be wrong. And they might, if there's a place where you need bulletproof, I've told Sade this many times, you need to get out of that area. Like
Yeah.
bulletproof anything, that's probably not the right place for you. So if you got to go to I don't think Chick-fil-A is interested in putting bulletproof sliding doors. Kind of
And,
defeats the purpose.
in
man.
Philly, they throw snowballs at them because they're just mean people.
Oh, here we
because,
go.
like,
The Santa
so-
story that George
So
hates.
if you threw the snowball at the Chick-fil-A person, do you get my pleasure back? I'm not sure how that would
Yeah,
work.
my pleasure.
Do they throw one back at you? I don't know.
No, they just don't give you food that you pay.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, we took your money, no food. Have a nice day. My pleasure. Anyway,
Say it.
uh,
I digress.
I digress. Exactly right. So, it'll be, I really will be interested to see. I've talked to a few people, even just today, and I'm already hearing like maybe even in MSP land, like consolidation of staff, one partner buying out another partner. Like people are kind of getting ready for whatever next year is going to be. I did talk to one guy last night who's like, I'm not so sure next year is going to be a problem. I think it'll actually, bump up. And by the time you get to the end of 2023, it'll be fine. And I'm like, well, it's a good prognostication. I hope that's right. But I don't know. I don't think we're at the floor. They just raised the interest rate 5 basis points yesterday, right? Still going up, not down.
Well,
And
you're,
Keith, to your point, some of these places now finally are overstocked. Now all of a sudden, it's like, hey, we didn't have it. Now we have too much of it, and now people are sitting on inventory.
Yeah,
I think you're gonna see that. I think there's I don't know what anytime the Fed's ever worked at straightening out the economy, but that gets into politics. But you're going like when you get on TV and you brag that you've cut inflation 2 percentage points to 7.1 and take a victory lap, when it's actually increased 300% over when you took over, it's perception, it's salesmanship, it's what you get markets to buy. And I rarely go to the grocery store. When I went again, I'm going like, geez, I thought eggs were like $1.50, a dozen.
Mm-hmm.
And I came back and told my daughter, I go, these were $3. She goes, that was cheap.
Yep. Eggs are going up again. Eggs are up 40% month over month.
And so on top of it,
Are there less chickens? I don't understand how.
I don't know other
Less
states,
chickens.
but
Chick-fil-A's got them all.
in California, we decided this be nice to animals before we kill it bill a few years ago. So all the eggs have to be range and yet humane treatment. I go, you're going to kill the cow. So what's the difference? You're nice to me today, you kill me tomorrow. Doesn't buy me a lot, but whatever. And so that's why our food prices are a little bit higher than the rest of the country. And
So
same with our
your gas prices are a little bit higher. Your food prices are a little bit higher.
special blends, because we don't understand that the smog produced in Arizona, Texas, Nevada just blows over. We think our clean gas keeps our state clean. I've told you 1,000 times, we're a special kind of stupid. When you have a governor go to the border to complain about the crisis, when he pushed for the state to be a sanctuary state, you go, people that buy into that, you go, you're pretty stupid.
Wow. I still don't understand how you don't have enough electricity, but by 2035, no cars, no trucks, all electric. I don't know. We'll see.
If we turn down backup transmission line development, of course, all our nuclear power plants, San Onofre's almost done. I think it's a feel-good thing. When you talk to people, they're wanting to eliminate natural gas to the home because the amount of greenhouse emissions that occur in your home. You're going, well, that's true if I'm comparing one to the other. That's if you produce clean electricity to power my heater, but you don't. So you actually, I could tell you this, I told you this before, all the things the governor did at the port increased greenhouse emissions in the port by 30% and slowed up trade. So you're going, all this save the earth makes it worse.
I mean, listen, natural gas, I mean, here, and I don't know how many people are actually on electric heat. I'd say a lot of people are on oil heat, depending on when their house was built, at least where I'm at. And the rest of the people have natural gas, right? Anything new, they put in that natural gas to the house every time. So inexpensive. I mean, it's, I know gas prices go up as well,
Not
but
now it isn't, but
I mean,
not as much as it was, but sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I switched from oil to natural gas, and then the prices are starting to skyrocket, right? I'm glad I'm not as and then the electricity, forget about it, right? Now the electricity is up 40% here in Massachusetts.
yeah.
They love
So-
that number. 40% seems to be a nice number for them.
But did
That's
you hear
high.
that they finally did a fusion reaction that generated more energy than they used to start it?
Yeah. I read that, yeah, they're,
Only took them like 60 years, right? Yeah. We'll see where that goes, but I'm sure that that's not going to be home ready anytime soon.
no, it's,
Windmills. It's all about the windmills.
It's like Mr. Fusion from Back to the Future, just throw some gas,
Mr. Fusion. Yeah, there you go.
bananas, and a couple beer cans, and you're good to go. Flux
But then, George, we all get Mr. Fusions and bananas go up to be like $7 each. That's why I got the
True.
steam powered Jeep. We got to keep bringing it up. See?
coal, man. Gotta keep shoveling that coal. Oh Lord. Okay. Wow. Now, another one in the books, guys. We're getting closer to the holidays. So still doing next week, Tuesday, Thursday, I think. Maybe not, but definitely Tuesday. So we're doing these at the end of the year. I'm sure something will happen between now and then. Hopefully nothing like industry wide, like a bad security thing. But hey, let's hope for a peaceful end of the year, and let's get to 2023 and buckle up. Catch you guys on the flip side.
all right.
MSP.com.
Have
You'll
a good one.
see. Take it easy, guys.